do not blindly believe something the news tells you. Don't believe your mortgage lender. I tell everybody as an agent, I'm Ben, I'm an agent. I have a financial incentive to sell you a home. Do not believe anything I say. You know, that's not to say I'm not trustworthy, but understand I have a stake in this transaction at the end of the day. Do your own due diligence. Welcome back, guys. Big week in real estate this week. So just to start off, the vast majority of home buyers over the past year are banking on a refinance. A survey revealed that almost all of them have purchased pretty much planning to refinance. I don't think that's a shock because of where rates are, but I think it's going to be a shock because where they're going. It does not appear that rates are going to be coming down anytime soon now. We may have another planned rate hike in November, and it's looking like 2024, if it moves at all, is not going to be a substantial drop to warrant you spending the money to refinance. So getting a little tricky there. A lot of people were sold date the rate, marry the house, and it's not looking good. So on top of that, we were also looking at baby boomers facing the highest rate of homelessness since the Great Depression. And meanwhile, Gen Z and millennials are moving in with their parents, ostensibly facing homelessness at one of the highest rates ever seen as well. So let's cover all this stuff today and more, and we'll get right into it. All right, right off the bat, the silver tsunami. That's kind of a messed up name. What they're saying is back in the 90s, about 11% of the homeless population was over 50. By 2003, that had jumped to 37%. It now sits at 50%. So half the homeless population is the elderly. It's no surprise they've been through basically two financial crises now. It left a lot of people that were banking on investments they had made in a bad spot. You know, a lot of this is rent. A lot of the elderly rent, a lot more than people think. You know, everybody thinks that once you're over a certain age, you're a homeowner. But there are a lot of people that rent, and they're dealing with the same kind of stuff that the young generation is. They're getting hit with the same rent increases, and it's forcing them out of apartments. They've got nowhere to go. If you're a homeowner, you're also not isolated from this, especially in Florida, but in any state really at this point with insurance being the way it is. I mean, never mind is the cost of living of everything going up, but your insurance can crush you. I've seen mortgage payments here. People on fixed incomes, their mortgage is up $400 a month just from their property tax and insurance increasing. And there's really no way around that. So they have no other option. If they've done refinances recently, that's where it gets really scary because then they might not even have the equity to sell the house and move on. Most people right now still have that option, but some of these elderly, unfortunately, this is the situation that they're faced with. Meanwhile, roughly 45% of young adults aged 18 to 29 are living at home. So it's kind of funny because they always try to pit the old against the young, and everybody's in the same boat right now. We're all kind of stuck with this crappy rental market, and though it is changing, in this crappy housing market. More than 60% of Gen Zers and millennials report moving back home in the past 2 years, according to this poll, often because of financial challenges. And I'm sure we've all seen this. I've seen it in my area. You know, there's not the wage increases to bear their rent increases, and some of them even sold and moved back in with family, and they're waiting to see what's going on. This is huge because this is the argument I get when I say that the rental crash is coming, which we're seeing here now, is these people it's not even that they left. They're in with family. They're done. They don't care. They're going to make it work, do multi-generational housing for the time being. And when rents come back to reality, they may go out and do that again. It's also worth noting that people are willingly doing this. This isn't just a trend of people who can no longer afford rent or housing. People are actively saying, screw this. I'm just going to go live with family. I'm not going to pay these people what they're asking. As it states here, 40% of them moved home strictly to save money, most likely for a down payment. And surprisingly, according to the survey, 40% of the young people reported feeling happy to be living at home with their family. And 33% said they felt smart for making the choice to live with them. So I don't know. How do you guys feel about that? Do you think you'd feel happy at home living with your family? Let me know in the comments. That'd probably be tough for some people. And this is how sentiment changes. It says 80% of the respondents say they think people shouldn't be judged for living at home, when just 2 years ago that would have been a lot different. Inflation changes everything, I guess. Baby boomers recently surpassed millennials as the largest share of U.S. home buyers. Millennials took it for like a second a year ago, and everyone's like, the millennials are causing the housing market crisis. But it was like 2 months maybe that millennials bought more homes than boomers did. But boomers ages 58 to 76 made up 39% of home buyers in 2022, compared with 28% of millennials. So you have boomers simultaneously buying the most houses, but also facing the biggest homelessness rate. And that's a 29% increase from their purchases from the year before, and the highest percentage of any generation. As we mentioned before, why are millennials moving back home and why are boomers facing homelessness? Well, it's because monthly housing costs hit an all-time high this month. So it is the most expensive it's ever been to carry a mortgage. That is before they even factor in taxes and insurance. That's just principal and interest, which is outrageous on its own. So obviously this affects sales dramatically, but it also really depends on where you are. If you guys take a look, metros with the biggest year-over-year increases as per median sales price, Miami's up 16.4%. If you guys saw my previous video, you'll see Sarasota County is also up 8%. Newark, New Jersey up 14%, Anaheim, California up 12.6%, San Diego up 11%, San Jose, California up 11%. And then they go into the metros with the biggest declines. Austin leading the way, negative 5.2% median sale price. Fort Worth, Texas, negative 2%, Phoenix, negative 1%. You'd think Phoenix would be higher than that by now. Maybe it's Austin this time. Houston, Texas, negative 1.5%, Las Vegas, negative 0.9%. Now that's metro. Obviously, if you saw my last video again, you'll know that Charlotte County is actually down 5% median sales price. So we're actually, it was five and change. We're actually higher than Austin, Texas. So, but you go just across the other side of the state, we're booming. You go just a few minutes north of us to Sarasota, prices are still up, but you can get a deal in Charlotte County right now if you're looking. Now, here's the big one. Myself and others have been shouting this nonstop. This date the rate, marry the house nonsense is so friggin' risky. They've got 84% of respondents basically banking on a refinance here in the next year. And they just did this survey. They just conducted this back on September 1st. They surveyed 1,200 Americans who had bought a home with a mortgage in the past year and found 82%, not expected, 82% were assured they could buy now and refinance later. I like how they give the statistical breakdown of who told people to buy now and refinance later. Looks like 63% of people heard it from their mortgage lender, 60% of people heard it from their real estate agent, probably both, but also almost 30% heard it from their family and 11% on the news. So as you guys have seen, I've covered some news programs here as well that are basically selling this buy now, refinance later. You guys know my thoughts on it. I hate it. Don't ever bank on that, my opinion. As professionals in any industry, you should not be saying this is a sure bet. You should not assure anyone that this can happen because you have no idea. You have no idea. If it works out, great, amazing. But look at this now. 13% of these respondents are worried that they're not going to be able to afford their house if they can't refinance. And why? Because they listen to someone. Should they have done their due diligence? Absolutely. Buyer beware. You should do your own stuff. This is not legal advice, but as a professional and as a industry agent, this is the kind of stuff that gives us a bad rap sometimes. I mean, it's everywhere. It's endemic. It's every industry. I get it. But not a lot of industries deal with one of the largest, if not the largest, financial transactions of your life. So it's really disheartening for me to hear that 82% of these people were assured in some way by someone that this was a done deal. Now, this is extremely interesting. They have a chart on how low would rates need to fall in order for these people to refinance. And man, if they go below 6, it looks like half the people are jumping in. That is huge. If rates come down below 6, that half of the people who took mortgages out in the past year are going to refinance. What kind of mortgage rates do you have? It's 16% below 6.5, 19% will do it below 5, 22%, but basically below 6 is where we're going to start seeing a refinance cascade. This is what this tells us. And the problem is if you have bad credit, if you don't have enough of a down payment. Yes, some people got rates in the 8s right now. So 6 is probably looking pretty good. I mean, 6.5%, I don't see that really moving the needle on anybody who's bought in the last year. So the survey indicates almost 55% of people who took out a mortgage regret it in the past year. Here is a breakdown of those numbers. You can see in the blue, those are first-time home buyers, and in the yellow, those are repeat buyers. So they regret taking out a mortgage when rates were high. People have been through this before, understand how this works. First-time home buyers, yeah, they're going to panic more. They've never seen this before. I get it. They also 56% of them feel trapped by their monthly payment, as opposed to repeat buyers are only at 36%. And they are at least somewhat stressed that mortgage rates will stay elevated. Actually, that's pretty close. 81 and 72%. So people are stressed about housing payments. People are stressed about car payments. People are stressed about insurance payments, medical bills. Everything is just piling up, guys. And if that wasn't a big enough squeeze on all these recent buyers and all these concerns, only 20% of the richest Americans have any pandemic savings left. So these people are out of money. It's, this is why you guys have to be so diligent in everything you do. It's not just purchasing housing, it's purchasing cars. There's not always a good time to make these kind of big moves. You have to weigh them, in and out for every person, but do not blindly believe something news tells you. Don't believe your mortgage lender. I tell everybody as an agent, I'm Ben, I'm an agent. I have a financial incentive to sell you a home. Do not believe anything I say. That's not to say I'm not trustworthy, but understand I have a stake in this transaction at the end of the day. Do your own due diligence. Now, what I tell you may be true. It may be factually correct, but you should double check it just in case. And just don't blindly believe this kind of stuff like you're going to be able to refinance in a year, because now, 10% of buyers are 13% are basically saying that we may be looking at foreclosure if rates don't come down, and it does not look like they're going to, guys. So again, if you like this content, give me a shout out in the comments section below, give me a subscribe, give me a like, and we'll see you next time.